Jason, do you think that the break had anything to do with just kind of the lack of production on the offensive side tonight?
No, I don't want to blame it on the break. I don't want to blame it on anything other than we didn't pay attention to the details tonight. For me, our energy level wasn't good enough in the first half. Got a little bit better in the second half, but I felt like we let 45 minutes slip tonight with our play in the first half, and that cost us. So we're very frustrated. We're very disappointed, and only thing I can attribute to is maybe a little bit of complacency.
Jason, I presume that means you look at this more as an opportunity just barely missed because you did have some close chances rather than got away because they had a couple close ones.
Yeah, and at the end of the game, patting Nick Armando on the back and saying, you just saved us 2 points and you saved us from giving San Jose all 3 of them. And so all of these, as I told you guys yesterday, all of these Western Conference games now from here on out are hugely, hugely important. We need to be pushing other teams down and rising up. The whole night for me tonight was a team that felt like we have arrived and felt like all we had to do is show up on the field tonight and we would be given the 3 points. And that's not us. So we will try to remind the guys in a lot of different ways this week who we are and how we got to where we are right now. And it wasn't by showing up on field and being handed 3 points.
Jason, 1 goal in the last 3 games. What are you going to be able to do to kind of light a fire under the offensive effort?
It's the same. For me, it's the same. Whether it's you're talking about when we don't have the ball or when we have the ball. It's attention to all the details.
Jason, one guy that seemed to have quite a bit of energy in the first half was that's going Mike Fabian, and then he misses that chance early in the second half and seemed to be a totally different player after that. I mean, would you agree with that assessment, that sort of the match for him revolved around that chance?
Yeah, I would. I thought he was very bright in the first half. Really, every good attacking move we had in the first half came through him down the left side of the park. And usually involved Will Johnson, who was getting forward quite well in the first half as well. But it was just 2 individual players. Again, it wasn't about how our team was attacking. We weren't getting the right numbers forward, so he'd get into a good spot, and there'd be 1 player in the box, Sutton. And that's never going to be enough. You've got to have the commitment level from all the other midfielders to get themselves in advanced positions as well. And yes, I do think that he felt very frustrated by missing that opportunity in the second half, but we've got to react better as well. So again, another detail, how are we going to react to difficult situations? How are we going to react if something doesn't go our way the first time? We've got to be much, much more mentally strong than that.
Does the complacency that you mentioned, it seems to come up at some point every year. Is that a fair recollection?
I think it's fair to say that from my remembrance as a player to now as a coach, there are always going to be a certain amount of games where the energy level just isn't there. And it's almost impossible to try to put your finger on it, but what you can say is, okay, that's your 1 break. Don't happen again.
Jason, is this one of those games, and you touched on a little bit, having more guys support the attack around the box? Is this a game where Kyle Beckerman might have been able to impose his will on the team and get that energy going, you feel like?
I think so. I think so. I mean, Kyle's another leader on our team who provides not only a little bit of a spark with how he vocalizes that, but also a bit of a spark because he leads by example and he raises the energy level when he's on the park. So I do think that we missed him. I don't think that he was the reason, or his not being in the team was the reason. But we missed him. We missed a guy like Robbie Finley. I would have liked to bring a guy like Nelson Gonzalez off the bench today as an attacking outside back. So we are suffering a little bit from injuries and players that aren't here. But again, no excuses, because the guys that were on the field, the guys that were inserted in the game, are frankly quite good enough to get the result tonight, and they didn't do it.
How close was Kyle to being available tonight? What's his progression?
He's close, but he's going to have to go through, as every other player does, he's going to have to go through a transition from being injured to being ready. And so, participating in a couple training sessions as a neutral player doesn't demonstrate that you're ready, and he's in agreement with that. So hopefully we'll have a full week of training for him, training fully, and then hopefully he'll be available next week.
As frustrating as the draw is tonight, is it satisfying on any level that you've been managing to still get points in games that you haven't had Robbie, you haven't had Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to pull out a few bright spots. We still have an unbeaten streak going. We still have an unbeaten streak at home going. That's now very, very long. And as you correctly said, we have played quite a few games this year where we haven't played well. We've picked up points, whether that be 1 point or 3 points. So that we can look at that as a positive, I think.
Jason, the fact that you're playing up against the World Cup, is that a distraction at all for anyone?
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting theory, and I was thinking about it a lot today because I know that when I was the last World Cup I remember in '06, as I was playing at that time, and it was a little bit difficult to be watching that spectacle and then to show up and play yourself. It was a little bit difficult, but still, again, I'm just not ready or willing to make excuses.
Speaking of that distraction, if you could get one coaching line to Robbie around the world for tomorrow, you're his coach, what would you say?
Be ready. Be ready to come in and make a difference. Because I mean, my feeling is that he won't start. But I do think he'll get in the game, and I think he's the type of player that can really make a difference. And we saw it tonight with our forwards. He may only get one chance. And the difference between the greatest forwards in the world and the others is that the greatest ones take their chances.
You got a pick for tomorrow's game?
USA.